Hello, welcome to LedgerCast. My name is Brian Carsgaard here with Josh Solswich. Hey, Josh.
Mr. Brian, good to be with you as always. I'm going to start by talking about the weather. We have about a foot of snow where I'm at. It is quite cozy out there.
Trading gloves are on.
Trading gloves are on. If you
the chat needs to know about the trading gloves being on.
That kind of weather.
I'm glad. You know what?
I heard you guys were getting a little bit of weather, huh?
Yeah, the South is getting iced in at the moment. It hadn't quite hit me yet, but it's on the way. So it's getting chillier by the hour at the moment. Hopefully we don't lose power and all that stuff. But I think Texas freaked out because they had that big ice storm a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. So this time they're all like scared. One significant update, and some people are euphoric already. Ethereum's almost 3K. Bitcoin cleared 40K, both having a near 10% day.
Both having a bit of a giggle.
Yeah. Some of my most important levels are being tested. Like Ethereum is basically reversing trend by the way that I tend to look at it. Bitcoin into the congestion zone and the way that I look at it. Josh, could we have a reversal in our hands? Like a long-term reversal?
I mean, I'm going to say the same stuff I always say, but which like isn't exciting, I know. Sorry, guys. I can't be up only. We're still in the range. So far, we survived the lows on pretty much everything, even DeFi for the most part. DeFi perp anyway, survive the lows. That looks good, right? Like it's a reason to be bullish about the range again. Is it bullish on trend? Is anything bullish on trend high time frame? No, but I'll take this over death, right? I think anybody would. If you're mildly bullish at all, you'll take this as a win.
Yeah, the range.
On ETH, I was watching, just real quick on ETH to mention this, I was watching this parabolic like banana thing, which we get a lot with ETH. We definitely saw that stuff on lower time frames over here because of how DeFi liquidations worked. We saw the same sort of thing over here because of how DeFi liquidations work. But that recovery looks to be real because this is several days now outside of that. Now this can reverse from here, go to zero, whatever. But trend-wise, in this like microcosm, it looks like we've definitely bucked against that.
Yeah.
So that's good.
For sure. Definitely coincided. Like crypto was recovering better than stocks, but Amazon smashed earnings in some capacity, and tech finally like looks like it made some kind of bottom.
Here's what I was looking for.
And anyway, so the correlations of crypto to everything else were certainly at play here. And yeah, so that gave crypto some hope.
Everyone's been talking about the correlations, including myself, since the beginning of the year. Okay, you can't ignore it, because if our whole reason of being here is because we are decoupled from whatever, however you want to put this. Are we digital gold? Are we decoupled from stocks? Are we NASDAQ? Are we tech? Are we emerging markets? You can look at all those correlations over time and make your own conclusions. But when we're like in lockstep with legacy, which doesn't look so hot, that isn't a good thing. When we're in lockstep with legacy, we lose this narrative of like being independent and different and having a reason to exist for a lot of people.
God, that chart you have there is like true lockstep.
Yeah, this stuff, terrible, right? And then like we got later in the week, this was February 1st, stocks actually outperformed. There was some outperformance there, and then there was some drawdowns, whatever, corrections.
Yeah, but when you zoom out on that, it's nasty. It's like we look the same.
Yeah, so that's, I think for people who are institutional looking at this and are seeing like why bother, right? I think a lot of that in the near term is justified for them because all they see is this correlation and they can't break it. But today, after NFP, we actually started to reverse. ETH started to reverse last night. I think last night, yeah, into early morning.
Yep.
So I don't know why ETH and BTC reversed. I don't think there needs to be a reason. I mean, they're still loosely correlated, even last night. But I think the wormhole hack and then plugging the hack by jump. I think that was actually bullish for ETH. I think Solana is actually pretty bullish too. But I think when you see like a big player come in and say, okay, somebody messed up, it might have been all our money anyway. But
Wait, no. They messed up. They own it. Jump owns Wormhole. It was an internal project.
Was it?
Yep. So like they're backing their own thing. It wasn't just pure goodwill.
Well, I thought it was their money in it, but I didn't realize it was they also were involved in the development.
Yep. All of the above.
Well, all right.
But still good, like that they stepped in and owned it. For a hot minute, there was like 12 ETH securing like all kinds of collateral on Solana, which was very problematic. So that's why people were racing to do stuff to get it bailed out.
So it was like one of the biggest DeFi exploits or hacks ever, right?
120,000 Ethereum worth, so I don't know, $300 million or something crazy.
So it just goes to show you for them the value of that project, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, what are they getting out of it when they're willing to just say, okay, here's an extra 120K.
And the likelihood is they're going to end up with a token, and it was to save the protocol, and they just will write it down to costs of what they'll eventually get out of it anyway. But that's my guess. Still.
So we have all that, right? And then we have Facebook after hours dropping 25%.
Josh,
we have
do you know
PayPal
what that,
down 24%.
Do you know what that reminded me of, Josh?
No.
Do you remember you and I were together one of the first times I ever traded options in legacy markets?
Like together IRL or?
Yeah, the one and only time in 2018. You don't remember this? I was like euphoric because I was hedging an actual Facebook position and I was worried about it. And so I was like, I think I'm going to buy puts. And then naturally, degenerately, I did not just hedge them via my shares via puts. I bought like more contracts than I possibly could have held. So I was like way over levered relative to my core position. And then Facebook went down like 20% or something overnight. That was their first like shock to Facebook in 2018. And I bought puts and I made like 10x overnight on them. And I was with you. You don't even remember.
I remember us walking down the street talking about the ETF.
Yeah.
Delay, denial, whatever, like the Winklevi one. I don't remember the Facebook thing.
Well, in bear market fashion, Facebook down 20%, and bad news obliterating price feels very familiar to 2018 denial that we were in.
It's weird. I guess my point was it's weird to see all that going on with legacy. Like PayPal is down 24%, Square down 10 to 15%, Ford is down like 14%, whatever it is today. Like all these crazy drawdowns. And yet here we still are, just sort of cruising along.
Yeah.
Motoring our way up here back to 40K. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good for us. I have to say, for stocks, it doesn't feel like the type of thing that happens in a bull market, right? Like the market just absolutely panicking in both directions. Snap went up 50% on a surprise. Amazon dumped 15% like in as a precursor, and then surprised to the upside and like retraced it all the way. So it did if you traded it correctly both ways, you had a 30-40% move on Amazon, a multi-trillion-dollar company. And to your point, like BTC and ETH been kind of grinding in that.
Somebody said that stocks are trading like 2017 shitcoins after hours. Like,
yeah,
crazy.
It's lit in the 4 and 5 o'clock hours of the stock market. And what's interesting to me is that oil and gold and stuff are similarly like unaffected, and the money seems to be in commodities and rotating to commodities and energy. And it seems to me like the tech trade, while it may be bottoming, I'm not trying to guess up or down, but the up only version of tech seems over, like it seems like that rotation trade has reached its capacity. People are using any excuse of bad news to dump it hardcore. And it just seems like the stock market's gonna diversify amongst more sectors. And I don't know that we should read that as like the economy is bad and Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to be affected the same way. It just adds a lot of nuance to how do we treat our asset class versus just put it tick for tick with stocks. And I don't know the answer.
Well, I think that's why everyone's watching the correlations on low time frame so closely, because the moment we start to potentially decorrelate, decouple, then the party's back on. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of the thinking is, legacy looks bad. We don't want to look bad. We want to decouple. We actually correlated more with the 10-year today, probably, than anything. The 10-year is up to like 1.92 or something.
Yeah.
The 10-year, which might I add, for all you TA naysayers out here.
Very technical.
Sorry for the white background there. 10-year TNX is trading as though it had a inverted head and shoulders. Just saying.
It's also
not perfect. It's not perfect, but it's there.
I want to show you something about the 10-year because
it's also a cloud breakout on the daily, or what is the weekly something? I don't know. The Dixie massive reversal this week. Bearish engulfing on the weekly.
Hold on. Before you keep going, can I show you something on this 10-year yield? If you look at it in the forever since, the weekly chart, it is a down-only chart. And it doesn't live above that 200-week often. But if you zoom in, it looks like a potential like shift in narrative. It's obviously just 1 week, but that is worth watching. Simultaneously, look at the 2-year round trip on rates.
So crazy.
This is the start of February 17th. So the bond market knew, right? Because remember March 20th or whatever, the bond market was ahead of the game. The bond market has completely U-turned the entire 2-year rate change. Insane. And the 30-year also like hovering there in key levels. I'm not trying to pretend what all this means and how it'll affect what we do and yada, yada, yada. But it is fascinating. Gold, literally glued to 1800, can't get off.
Those are I think the biggest overarching thing though is like a lot of the old school people complain about volatility and focus on the downward volatility for BTC, and here we are talking about all these crazy volatile moves in these traditional markets, and it's like, you look at that compared to what BTC has done and is doing, and it's not that big of a deal in my opinion, right?
Yeah,
on a relative basis.
Test 123 in the chat said someone said on Twitter we are speed running the 1970s.
Stagflation.
I like that. I quite like that.
Something else
we do everything faster.
Something else to notice or to take of note is that Facebook lost 232 billion after hours. That's equivalent to the third largest cryptocurrency by market cap.
Yeah. What's the third largest cryptocurrency by market cap? XRP.
Is it like Ripple or something? Whatever, 70. I don't know. I tweeted it out today.
That's
point
crazy.
Is they lost more than almost as much as each entire market cap in an after
Josh,
hours.
I think you're saying we're still early by a different label.
Well, that's what I said in the tweet. I said we're still early because we are. We're still early. So just keep that in mind.
BNB is the answer, by the way.
BNB. Sorry, I always forget.
You forget which centralized piece of crap you're talking about. No comment.
No comment on that. No, because there's stable coins in there, and it's like, do you include those in your top 5 market cap? Because there's stable coins, they're crypto, sure, but are they like, traded the way other speculative assets are traded? I don't know. I don't think they belong in a list in the truest sense. They're important to put on the list, but they're different, right?
Yeah. So we're trying to figure out correlations. We're trying to figure out where Bitcoin and Ethereum fit in the range. Meanwhile, in the scheme of things, how much did Ethereum go down top to bottom? 55%. So off the highs.
Mere flesh wound.
Off the highs, we're at minus 39% still. Off the lows, if you bought the bottom tick. We're up 37%. So highly volatile, back into the no man's land of the range. And the question is, how far into the range can we go? And we can apply all those numbers. They'd just be a little bit less to Bitcoin. How far into the range do we think we can go? How much meat is there on this bone? Are we in it for the trade, or are we trying to get long-term positioning, seeking new trends, et cetera, et cetera? That's what I want to know. The way I look at it, and you answer me what you think, if we can confidently flip this local trend, so I have this yellow box that kind of goes to 2,900. If we can maintain that through the weekend, to me, a trip to the 200-day at 3,500 seems quite reasonable, and then test the 200-day from the underside. Whether that's Bitcoin or ETH, on Bitcoin, that would be all the way to 49K, which might be a little tougher. So that's another 20% or so up potential. Do you think that's reasonable? Do you think we're going to chop in the low part of the range and we're probably at the local maximum right now? Or what thoughts do you have?
What thoughts do I have? Well, I like mean reversion.
Right.
I like the 200-day moving average.
Yeah, so like 47, 49, that's not exactly bullish. It's just like slamming it from underneath, right?
47, that's huge from here. 47 is what? What percentage is that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's
16,
it's a great
15%?
trade, but it doesn't make Bitcoin bullish.
No, it's going to be in the range until it's not in the range. Like, that's end of story. That could be the next 3 years.
End of podcast. We'll see you in 3 years.
Just saying, like, the trend is your friend till the end, and right now the trend is range-bound trading, range-bound price. So, I don't know. Not investment advice, but looks like a range to me.
I mean, you
Good
just
that we didn't go lower.
Look at those. Is that the 50 and 200 at EMA? It's just crisscrossing.
Yeah, I was gonna say it kind of looks like a double helix, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the EMAs don't know what to do, which is a sign telling you as a trader, hey, this is a range.
They're all going to squish together, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they will. I do like the 1050 though on the daily. Let me take all this stuff off. If you look at the 1050 historically on backtesting, the backtestor, it does have a pretty good hit rate. So I'm curious what it looks like here. Okay, so it's not like amazing, but it told you to get out at 58.6 on BTC. I mean, the entries that the 1050 gives you on the daily on anything crypto is actually pretty decent. So it's not even telling you to get in here yet.
Yeah, moving average crossover stuff is fascinating to me.
Like you can take a broad like shotgun approach at like looking at every single EMA on every time frame and like statistically figuring out which one works best. But I'm just saying, like, just looking at this based on what other people have told me about the 1050 on the daily, like has a pretty good hit rate.
One of the things I like to do is actually take candles off. So I'm on SMAs, so they move a little slower. But this is 20, 50, 100, 200. And if you put no candles on it whatsoever, to your point, where do you actually choose to get in or out? And you're looking at it now, it's not telling you to get in, right? Like,
no.
These all have to converge back. They'd probably converge at 55, 60. So that's what's funny is it's like, don't buy until the all-time high and then ride that trend up.
Well, what I wanted to say earlier was all this stuff in the range is just like nonsense compared to what like the real trading, where the real trading begins, right? At all-time highs.
As the expansion of those moving averages occurs, you'll really see the trend evolve.
And this probably goes, I mean, this measures 200K-ish if we keep going. So I don't know, like, sure. But you can't say like that's a certainty until we're out of the range. And even then we need to be out of the range when longs aren't at all-time highs and we get volume again, and there's all sorts of things we need to check off. But
do we actually have longs at all-time highs right now?
No, but we did have funding still negative. We have the fear and greed index below 30 since January, the entire time. So basically the entire way down. Shorts really haven't been squeezed or pressured this entire time as well, which I think is part of what's going on here. I wouldn't call it a short squeeze per se, but I think bears just like ran out of steam personally.
Yeah. Everybody that was going to sell did it.
Yeah, I mean, it's down 50% since November, right? Like, I don't know. Like, at some point, some equilibrium in buying and selling has to kick in. Doesn't mean we have to go back up to 50, but I think the selling has certainly slowed to a major degree.
Me showing, or both of us showing the no price moving average crossover only Zcash Zealot, nice name, painful life, but nice name, wants us to bring up the alligator chart because that's what the alligator chart does. What's the alligator telling us, Josh? Do you have
alligator? Does anybody else talk about alligator with me?
It's just you, but I like it. So tell us what this actually does. Right?
Yeah, so it's a little bit more than I think Bill Williams is the guy who started this thing, but it's really just it's 3 MAs, whatever you want it to be. In this case, it's the 5, 8, and 13, and it gives you sort of entries as well as exits. It also gives you stop losses. It tells you like strength of trend, things like that. So yeah, on the daily for BTC, you want all 3 of these MAs to flip. It's just like checks and balances against, I guess, a single MA cross. But you'd want these to flip similarly to late July, where all of them flipped. Doesn't give you a great entry, but it does tell you with pretty high confidence that, yeah, this looks good for bullish continuation. Again, back test it, not trading advice, do whatever you want. But on balance, this thing is pretty good for BTC and ETH on the daily. So yeah, it hasn't crossed yet. As bullish as I think both of us are here, based on a lot of different factors, it's not exactly screaming mega buy on high time frames.
Yeah, I mean,
even the cloud. I mean, just to talk about the cloud too, real quick. We're still not at the Kijun, which is at 42.4. I think it's going to take some time. It takes time to repair a 50% correction, right?
Yeah, the people that bought the bottom or close to it, we're getting into the zone where they're going to just start pairing stuff off because they're happy with the trade within the range. That's what they recognize it as an opportunity, and then you got to prove it beyond that. So that's why the wall of worry type of thing can exist in this range. Ugh, yeah, look at that. I'm going in the top of the cloud, Keisha, and all the TA stuff that we like to round through. It starts to point to like similar levels, another 10, another 20%, and you're kind of into the tougher bits to hold on to, right? That's where I'm going to want to take profit. Like we get another 20%, Josh, and Bitcoin's like hovering under 50,000. Like I don't care about owning Bitcoin at 50K. I really don't. I just,
Well, it depends on your time horizon,
Sure.
If anything draws down 50% and you're like, want to buy something, you don't think it's going to go to zero, that's usually a good time, but not investment advice. The difficult part about this weekly cloud is sure we might be like back above it again, but again, the most important part is the range. It's not like what the cloud's telling you here, because the range is going to dictate what happens next if we're above or below that. I think it's really that simple until we're out of it. That's just kind of it. Even looking back to like this 2019, 2021 thing, where that ended up being like a inverted head and shoulders or whatever, like none of it really mattered until we were out of the range, because we were still in the previous range from December 2018. We were still in the range from the range high of December 17. Didn't really matter till we, kept going out of that.
So what do you think?
It's going to be excruciatingly painful, I think.
What do you think about where the action is occurring currently? And that's mostly a dominance question. So,
what is dominance today? I assume dominance went down today.
Nope,
no,
it's up quite a bit, and that's what interests me. So, Bitcoin dominance bottomed January 16th, and it looks like it wants to make even like a more significant reversal to me personally. Like it looks like a significant trend shift. And somebody in the chat asked us, hey, should I sell the BTC that I bought at the bottom or whatever I don't remember what they said, and buy Solana with it? Like take my 10% and then go to something with higher velocity, Solana, whatever else. I want to make the 2021 contrarian bet that in 2022, those things are just going to go slower. It's going to be the opposite of 2021. Like when you get positive momentum, it's going to be to quality. It's going to be to majors, not, I guess you call some of those layer ones majors, but I'd rather hold Bitcoin. I personally would equate Ethereum as well within that category, because I think there's some people, I might even qualify for this as like, when I'm going back to my base currency is going to be ETH. I don't where am I going to go to buy Bitcoin? I can't do that on chain. I can't do that at my favorite places. I got to go to my centralized exchanges to buy Bitcoin. And if I'm going to do that, I don't know, if I'm worried about ETH keeping up, I could just leverage ETH a little bit. I don't know, just making things up now, but I just think I continue to believe that the layer one trade is on a relative basis going to unwind a bit. It'll have days where it just goes crazy, but I am not personally super interested in them still. I think these charts look very scary. What do you think?
Well, when I first pulled this up on the weekly, immediately you're like, okay, it's a triple bottom.
Yep.
You short a triple bottom? Probably not. Can you? Sure. Can you make money? Can this keep going lower? Sure. Can it break all three lows? Of course it can, right? That's a stop loss at that point, but not because I'm a maxi, just because of the way the chart looks. I wouldn't short this. The cloud is telling you, yeah, we're headed to 56. This reminds me of, if anything, the DXY, which did just that. Like, here's your triple bottom. Here's exactly the trajectory you'd expect. And, there's a reason I believe in the cloud so much. Is because it's stupidly accurate most of the time.
You know what else is at 56?
What's that?
The 200-week moving average for dominance. Right there. Exact same spot.
There you go. If you needed more confluence between the cloud and the 200-week.
What
else is there?
And the Keynesian. Look at it. That is... that's like
big,
El Magneto.
It's a big, it's a 50%, it's not like anything crazy special mathematically other than just being a 50% level between the high and the low.
Now, what we want is for it to occur in a bull market and not a bear market.
I was going to say, does this happen because alts die a little bit more than BTC?
If you look at the history, it's not great. No, that's not the best signal. No. Yes, to JRC's point, we want the Bitcoin in fall 2020 run. We want everything went nuts for a while. Now it chills. DeFi went down 70% after the DeFi summer, and Bitcoin ran from 10 to 42K. It topped on a dominance basis when it was in the 30Ks, but it tripled. It tripled while other stuff went down in USD. That's max pain. Dominance. If you stay in the trade that you thought was the future, Bitcoin runs instead.
Finance.
Yeah, the future of France, and Bitcoin ran instead. And then everything went wild in 2021. But Bitcoin, I think the entirety of 2021 was made possible by the Bitcoin run in the fall. That Bitcoin run gave efficient capital allocators lots of ammo to go buy on a relative basis wrecked alts that went ham all year. So if we can put that on repeat, it is fantastic for our 2-year cycle thesis, Josh.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Everything's in the range still. Everything's still fairly correlated. If you look at the top 10 correlation, I don't know, Skew, somebody put out a tweet about it. We're 70 to 85% correlated on the top 10 cryptocurrencies, which you usually don't see in a bull market. Usually in a bull market, you get, disallocation, decoupling, whatever.
I'm getting made fun of for the last time. Getting made fun of for the last time I called for a dominance run. But the time before that was September 2020 when it happened. So,
well, the other barometer that I use is the 200-day I have that chart. It's like altcoin season or Bitcoin season,
Yeah, that's a good one.
and it's right at the 200-day MA right now. So
That just looks like the type of thing that wants to break up, though. The multi-drive, weak bottom, reversal. Boom.
I would definitely not bet against this breaking up personally, but to each his own. Like this looked like the head and shoulders at the top, even though it was a mess, and this looks like an inverted head and shoulders at the bottom. Like it's not. I don't know. Maybe I oversimplify chart patterns, and it's just I'm like pareidolia everything, but it looks pretty obvious to me what's going to happen here.
I'm just trying to figure out how that can be true, and also ETH mooning can be true. I just want Bitcoin and ETH to go, but I do agree the safer trade's probably Bitcoin only from a relative basis.
Well, we were high on the ETH BTC pair, and leading into the end of the year, I guess, and it just kind of just fizzled out. Just didn't do anything.
Yeah, and now it's just in a sideways motion. So maybe I personally think ETH is in a different landscape than all the other altcoins. I really do. I think it can be a new paradigm for Ethereum to play alongside a dominance run. I think NFTs would get wrecked on a relative basis. I think other alts would get wrecked on a relative basis.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this.
Yeah, it's not telling us. It's not telling us what.
I got nothing on that. Just looks like a hot mess.
It's at resistance on my weekly chart, like the 20-week Tinkin, whichever way you want to look at it.
Yeah, it's weird to me because you'd think that EMP 1559 would kick up something higher than it has. You'd think that fees would be doing something more special than they are. I don't know. All the NFT activity on Ethereum, you'd think there'd be some positive correlations there. But if anything, it feels like the parties and NFTs, ETH fees are going high still. Nobody cares about DeFi. And ETH price is just kind of like, whatever.
Brian Taylor said in the chat that we're discounting the fact that stablecoins are growing fast and they're calculating your dominance chart. I agree. We just don't have anything better to look at right now. Sorry.
Yeah, you can exclude. I forget the ticker for it, but it's not total 2. It's something else.
Yeah.
There's a way to calculate it.
Somebody please give us a better thing than BTCD to track. We will track it.
I don't know if total 2. Like you could do what's BTC market cap. BTC. I don't remember what it is. Maybe it's just crypto cap. Oh yeah, crypto cap.
There's total 2 divided by BTC.
Could you do that? Would that work? I don't know if this. Yeah, it looks about the same. I don't know what TradingView includes in their calculations for total 2, but yeah, you have stablecoins out of that equation for sure. That looks about the same. It doesn't look exactly the same, which is interesting. It's at 73% instead of 46 or whatever.
I think so stablecoins, people aren't exactly excited about stablecoins at the moment. Like there's a lot of challenges with stablecoins. So
what is there not to be excited about?
Well, they might be run by scammers. They might depeg. They might.
Whoa. That's fire. Looking back, just because I've been doing some stablecoin stuff, research for Valkyrie lately, looking back on like where stablecoins have come and where they are now, it's kind of insane.
Total 3 over BTC is what?
Total 3.
Total 3. Crypto, total market cap, exclude BTC and ETH.
I don't think this is the right
It is.
equation, but
I got it. So wait, no, this still includes stablecoins then.
Yeah, it probably does.
It's just,
but I'd have to check to see what their calculation is.
Yeah, whatever.
Stablecoins, man.
Somebody fix it.
Billions of dollars. They're hard. You can't ignore them. That's the thing. You can't ignore them. And they're having like 3 hearings in the next 2 weeks in the Senate and the House on stablecoins in the United States. So everybody's focused on them because of CBDCs, because of China. The list goes on and on and on. The size that they're growing, the pace that they grew in 2021. They're a big deal. So yeah, you can't ignore them. But I would exclude them from dominance calculations. I think stables help alts more than anything. I think historically that's been the case. If you look at like Poloniex, which never had fiat on-ramps early on, I don't think. Like without USDT, stables on Polo would have done nothing, right?
Yeah, and BTC, I mean, it's bullish for BTC too to not have stables. Like all the BTC pairs became irrelevant.
I think that's mostly true. Maybe not for Doge, but for most of the pairs. I don't know. Stables definitely helped alts for sure, though. What's Doge up to today?
I don't know. If it's up a lot, I'll be unhappy.
Just slowly dying.
That's what we want. We want Doge to slowly bleed away. 0.14. 359 sats is the more important number.
It's funny, you and I price it in VTC, but I guarantee you there are people who've never priced it in VTC. Yeah, all they've known is the USD price.
Yeah, they just are following Tunez, following Tunes to his grave, calling for $3 Doge.
Else you've been watching anything specifically? I was going to say one other thing about ETH while you think about that. ETH did tap its 365 MA level
on the downside.
On the downside, whether or not this is like going to actually play out, I don't know. But let's pull up the index. It has more data. It like it could be one of these dealios where it's like Adam and Eve, right? Maybe, I don't know. This doesn't have a massive hit rate historically, so I wouldn't like sell my organs or anything here for ETH, but this could play out pretty positively based on where this sits relative to the 1 year MA. Historically, this is like in the oversold buy zone, but yeah, this projection is what, 15K?
Yeah.
Can you imagine 15K ETH?
I talked to Cryptopathic yesterday, and you know what he said?
What did he say? 20K?
It's a phrase,
33K by July.
He did.
For ETH?
Path said 33K by July for ETH.
Oh, man.
And I was euphoric. I don't think I'd own any ETH in that scenario, but I was
just going to say, I'll say the same thing I've always said, but anytime I pull up this chart, if we get above this level, I'm out. Like, right. I'm happy to sell you all of my ETH at that level.
I made the mistake of, doing some calculator napkin math of like, what's my net worth based on my ETH or whatever at 33K. And I was like, yeah, I'm out. See you later, pal. Have fun.
At least, in a temporary moment. Sure.
Yeah.
I think most of us will always be traders to a large degree, so long as we have the money to do so. But yeah, it's an oscillator, right? It's nothing against Vitalik or proof of stake or whatever nonsense comes next. It's just business, pal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd be long gone by like 2024. There's no way I'd stick it to 33.
What's funny is like it's very 2017 though. Like my upside thought is like I think Ethereum is destined for 10K, and I think if you just suck it up, hold, wait, preserve your guays, whatever they're called. That I think 10K ETH is in your future. Relative to any legacy portfolio return, that is a terrific return. And the longer it takes, that's fine. You get long-term capital gains. Try not to make all your trades taxable. And if it goes beyond that, I will be truly euphoric. I'll be euphoric if it does that, but I'll be truly euphoric if it goes beyond that. So that's kind of my big thought process. 10K provided something doesn't fall apart on the roadmap, I assume, asks Ski Bum. And yeah, obviously, like the ETH scaling plan has to occur. But yes, Chamberick, I believe it's programmed. I believe that ETH is almost deflationary in its current state with miner rewards. When it goes proof of stake, it's going to be insane.
I can dispute that claim by pulling up the data if you'd like.
I said almost. Almost is a wide range of possibilities, Josh.
Almost says you're almost right is what it says.
I
I
just,
think the difference between this and 2018 is you don't have a bunch of ICO treasuries just dumping nonstop.
yeah,
Um,
you have people
who are
that
the
know
big?
ETH is burning. That's what you have.
I wouldn't go that far. What you do have is 9.2 million plus locked into ETH 2.0. That's certainly going to help you on any downside here because that's supply that can't be sold, right? Unless it's like liquid staking mechanic.
Blabbernab, y'all got some good names in the chat today, said 1.5% supply growth currently. That's low. That's really low. That's like sub monetary inflation. So that's it's relative deflation. I'm declaring victory.
It's blinding me. um, it's above zero, so it's not deflationary, right? It might have acted disinflationary, similar to Bitcoin, right? We're losing levels, whatever. But it's not zero. It's not below zero. Definitely above zero. I don't know. Part of me thinks like, what would happen if there were no NFTs? If EIP 1559 never happened in some parallel multiverse, what would ETH look like price wise? Would it even have moved at all? I don't know. Would it still be up here?
You mean if people didn't use it, would it be doing poorly? But they are using it, even when it's expensive.
People are using it and it's still doing poorly. That's my point. Like,
also,
it's just so weird.
Also, Blabbernab, who I'm just quoting as fact. The best way to spread disinformation in crypto markets is just tell it to me in a Twitch chat, because I'll repeat it on air. So it's minus 2.5% growth post merge based on current rates. So 1.5% growth now, minus 2.5% growth post merge. That's not a lot of inflation. That's pretty good.
No, it's not. But you know what else doesn't have inflation? Monero. Look what it's done. Not much of anything, right? But they don't have the user numbers. They don't have the devs. They don't have the community. Blah blah blah. I get it, but
yeah, but ETH does.
You can't just look at inflation. BTC is 1.8 inflation % annually.
Yeah, so ETH is less inflationary than Bitcoin right now, and will be even less.
This claim is disputed.
And people actually use ETH, whereas they don't use Bitcoin. Also worth noting.
They're two different things. People always ask me like, when's the last time you sent BTC? I don't. Its job for me isn't to do anything. Its job is to be there and get held and store value and up only.
Be a rock.
Sure, whatever. My goal for Ethereum is to let it go play outside and get lost and jump in the snow and the mud and whatever, and hopefully come back and help me out. I don't know. Like, but my goal with ETH isn't the assumption that it's going to improve or increase in value. I don't know.
Did you
it's
see?
It's different. It's just different.
Have you seen the Bitcoin versus Ethereum fee transaction chart?
Yeah, of course. Everybody loves to top that out because people are paying what they're paying for ETH fees because they're washing trades on OpenSea or LooksRare or whatever else. Like, there's a reason fees are high, people. There's usually an incentive to do so, to keep those fees high. There's always going to be an incentive. Otherwise, people wouldn't be sending those fees what they're sending places. That's my flip side of that coin. So yes, I've seen it, but we can talk about it.
It's very high. Somebody asked.
Spin. Sorry, another white screen for people who are watching this, blinding myself as well.
You're fine.
The spin for this is always, wow, look how much fees people are paying, versus like, this is not a great user experience for the general population based on the fees.
My bet though is that layer 2 will be figured out. Layer 1 scalability will probably also be figured out, but the usage on layer 1 will still be important even if layer 2 takes over. And layer 2 native experiences will be common for people, where they'll inherit the security of Ethereum while their whole life exists on Arbitrum or whatever other layer 2. And you'll still get the fee burning because the people doing it on layer 1 can afford it. That's my 2 cents on that. Of course, it's not a good user experience as it sits today. I'm not trying to claim that it is. We were asked by
not you specifically, but in
Yeah.
general, the framing is, look at all these fees people are paying. Isn't it great? Like,
it's
no,
not,
it's not great.
Not
It's
great.
horrible.
I do not enjoy it. I can confirm I do not enjoy it. We were asked by T. Chilinos. I'm reading everybody's names today. He said, Ledger, you said you believe 10K for ETH. What do you think for BTC? So I think my North Star of ETH to BTC ratio for now is just kind of 0.1. That's where it is in my head. I don't care what the actual price is. It's 0.1. So that's a potential 250K plus type of thing. Or wait, 10K, 100K plus. Yeah. 10K and 100K are my like ideal targets for Bitcoin and ETH this year for cycle continuation. And then euphoria would be anything above that, right? Like 20K and 200K or whatever, 33K by July and 300K, 250K. I don't care. Anything above 10K and 100K is just euphoria for me and for most. That's my thought. And then somebody's trying to get me to look at 2015, 2016 charts. I can't do it. I don't understand what you're talking about. I can't remember what else I was going to ask you there, Josh. It was something.
Well, one other thing we don't see in a bear market for crypto is like the raises that we're seeing across the board.
Yeah, there's
for everything and everyone. It's kind of scary how big these raises still are, but man, you don't see that in a bear market.
I was pretty excited about our raise for Flip, $6.5 million, and it's like tiny numbers compared to what you see for most of the place. But ours was a seed round, so that's fine. I look forward to the larger raise in the future, but I like the comparative raises. That's for sure. I think the biggest part of that is people are just dumping money into venture, and then venture has to deploy it. So Tiger Global is rumored to be raising $11 billion or $12 billion, and they're putting a lot of money into crypto. So how much of their money is going into crypto? Paradigm, $2 billion. Like they're all raising in the billions now, which not in the 100 million. Like the big funds a couple of years ago were 100 million. These are 10 times, 20 times, 100 times that for Tiger. And Tigers won't all go into crypto, but a lot will. Crypto is by far the most attractive VC landscape. And I think warranted, we will see a dozen crypto native companies go public, and we will see dozens more be highly liquid, highly efficient markets, token markets. And right now we don't. We're in the stage of acceleration of the big stuff. And I don't know, seems reasonable to me. It's crazy. The numbers seem insane, but they're not, those venture dollars being deployed, they're not being deployed by dumb people, you know? Anyway, I'm just talking. I'm just blabbering.
I have no comment on that.
You're looking at Zcash versus Bitcoin.
I just like to have a laugh every once in a while. Man, that chart is nasty. Yeah, I don't know what to say. How many Super Bowl commercials do you think Crypto.com is going to?
How many crypto Super Bowl? This is a good. I don't think the Super Bowl is until after next week. Yeah, we need to do an up down over under number of crypto commercials. I feel like the over under should be like 10.
Yeah, I was going to say 10.
Yeah. All right, over under 10 commercials.
I have a hard time thinking it'd be over 10.
So you're saying under?
I think it's going to be around 5.
All right.
You're going to take the over?
Wait, do I just have to take over under your guess, or?
Chat's saying like 12, 9. 9 is so many though. I don't know. I like 5. Like who else besides?
Right, let's say we both pick a number and then the closest one wins, and not Price is Right rules. So just closest one wins. We both pick a number. You said 5.
5. I think 5 is the easy and safe answer though.
All right.
Let's go 7. Go 7.
I was gonna say 8. So we're basically doing over under. All right. So you're 7. I'm 8. So if it's 7 or fewer, you win. If it's 8 or more, I win.
Okay.
Yeah.
It feels right. 7 feels right.
Yeah, you probably win.
Doge will have a commercial. Could you imagine if Doge has a commercial? Just like Robinhood having a commercial.
Don't risk a steak. One day, Josh and I will be able to get together, and I will owe him a steak plus interest.
I forgot about that.
We're bringing an extra bottle of wine as interest payment.
There you go. That's all I have for today. I think this week was productive for crypto in general.
Man,
We didn't keep dumping. We decoupled a little bit, you know.
higher or lower next week?
Higher or lower next week? I like higher.
Me too. I think we're going to go force ourselves into like the real retesty levels that are tough to fade, but that'll be when it's closer to fade them, like 3,500, 3,700 ETH, 50K, 48, 50K Bitcoin. Those will be hard to sell, but I'm going to try to convince myself to do it at the time. That's all we got. Thanks for being here, y'all. Check out Josh, YouTube, Carpe Noctem, Twitter, Carpe Noctem. That's it. Go to flip.xyz and register your username. Thanks.
Monuments crumble in the blink of an eye. The easy river has just run dry. In a house of cards, I feel the breeze wound so tight I can barely breathe.